Alrighty, folks. Alright, Nathan Burnett, episode 80, guys. I am excited. Well, not necessarily excited, but happy to be on camera. But today we're going to be talking about a little bit sadder subject with Popovich retiring and everything. But before we get into that, I got my man Swisheel here, and we got a few announcements as well. I got Swisheel because, I mean, he's always an amazing guest, and just like CJ Hoop Talks and Clan the Spurs fan, he's another Spurs fan in our midst of basketball YouTubers here. So I figured if anyone was going to connect with me about Popovich retiring, it would be one of those guys, and Swisheel, of course, was the first one I reached out to because Swisheel is one of the most reliable people I can count on whenever it comes to recording. I'm always like, hey, you down to record? And Swisheel's like, bet. And it's as simple as that. Not to say that the other guys aren't reliable, but it's just like, as soon as I text Swisheel, like, hey, you want to record? Swisheel's like, I'll be on there tomorrow. Let's go.
They just have lives. I don't.
Here, let me turn you down. All right. It sounded good on my end, but I saw on Twitch that it was redlining. So I think for the actual recording, it was acting weird. But I think I fixed it now, so it should be okay.
Right.
But for announcements,
I'm not coming across like demonic loud or anything.
I mean, I can. Luckily, with the way I edit now with CapCut, I can split up the voices now. So if that ever happened, I'm able to finally like separate the like one voice from the other to lower it. But yeah, it's definitely better to just fix it now versus in post. But
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, with technical difficulties out of the way, I have a lot of big announcements for you guys. So number one, again, sort of on the sadder side of things. I don't know if Swisheel, you saw this announcement either, because I posted it on Instagram for sure. I'm pretty like 99% sure I posted it on Twitter, so you may have seen it. But if not, just to give y'all a heads up, I did have a minor health scare recently, so I am sort of taking a slight, not necessarily break from the channel because I'm still going to continue it, but I am going to stop uploading weekly. I'm going to start kind of reeling it back a little bit because doctors essentially agreed that I was just super overworking myself, which of course sometimes can be a good thing because it shows that I have a passion for this, and I hope you guys can appreciate that. But at the same time, when health-wise too much becomes too much, you got to realize, like, even if I love doing it, you got to, not do it to the point that it literally, like, kills you. So, but sort of the morbid stuff out of the way. Again, I just wanted to get that out there at the very start of the podcast. So I'll be releasing this video, and then I do have a few more videos planned. But if it takes a while for them to get out, just understand that, again, I made a statement about it already. So, yeah, just wanted to, again, keep some of you guys informed that maybe didn't see that and instead listen to the podcast, all that. But on the happier side of things, ironically, a lot of stuff for the podcast has actually been sort of on the up and up. I recently have been getting a bit more views on the videos, so thank you guys for that. I think part of it has to deal with me doing better SEO, search engine optimization, but we'll keep that on the low. I'll just say that it's thanks to you guys because, again, y'all have been supporting me a lot, so thank you guys so much. And with that support, again, go cop the merch. I wear it every podcast episode. For this episode, because we're going to be talking about Popovich, talking about the playoffs, the discount code for this podcast episode is going to be BuzzerBeater15 for 15% off your order. So that's going to be the discount code for this week. And along with Nathan Burnett merch, with my indie game, I have also released a plushie. So if you guys think that this is cute, you guys like this, you can go down to the indie game website and down in the description. Go pre-order this plushie if you live in the United States, and this will help support the indie game tremendously. And there's a lot of other stuff going on that I'll talk about next episode. I was on Noah Magaro, I think is how you say his name, Magaro George.
Yeah.
He hosted a Twitter space, and I actually was a speaker on that, so that was huge for the podcast, and that actually helped me get into a international group of Spurs fans. To give y'all sort of a preview from what might be the next podcast episode, is that got me in touch with a huge group chat and sort of community of people that are international fans in China and Europe, things like that. So the plan for next episode is, if you guys have any questions, things like that, let me know in the live chat here. If you're watching the episode live, let me know down in the comments on YouTube. And we are going to possibly do a Q&A with international fans for any of y'all that are local fans, meaning just general United States even, because I know Swisheel is in North Carolina, but like just U.S. NBA fans, if y'all have questions for the international Spurs fans, like how did they get into the Spurs, why the Spurs specifically versus, teams like the Rockets with Yao Ming, things like that. If y'all have any questions, let me know, because I know the admin and the head of that group through this connection that I just made, and we're going to try and set that up to sort of get some intermingling going. But anyway, I know that was a bunch of jumbled up announcements and news, things like that. Lots of promos coming at you, but that's how we usually start the podcast here. But going back, sort of unfortunately, back into sad news. Again, the whole purpose of the episode is Popovich officially has stepped down as head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. So I have a few things to say about that, but I'm going to let my guest go here, and I'll kind of bounce off of him before I go into a 30-minute ramble of my own with making Swisheel hop on the call just to sit in silence. But if you have any preemptive words, any just initial reaction, initial thoughts to this Swisheel. I mean, ironically for me, I found out through Clan's server. So I mean, that's how I first saw the news, and I was like, at first I was like, this is somebody trying to troll in Clan's server, and then I looked it up and it was real, and I was like, fuck. But yeah, if you have what was your initial reaction, your initial thoughts to this, any things just going into this episode that you want to talk about, and we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, no, it was one of those things that I kind of thought was coming. Just knowing a couple people close to the situation, and then hearing first of all about all the stuff with his stroke initially, I was like, "Ooh, is he gonna come back?" And just kept hearing, "Yeah, he wants to," and then seeing that like he passed out at a dinner a couple months ago and all that, I was like, "There's no way he cannot do this anymore." So. Mm-hmm. I was still really sad, but I was coming from the perspective. I was like, okay, I kind of thought this was going to happen and all that. So really sad to like officially get the news. And then on top of that, just to see Pop at that press conference, like not being able to walk like he normally does and all that. It was just, but it was nice to see that, his mind was still there. His sense of humor was still there. And, hell, we had DeJounte Murray come back after trashing the franchise and come support Mitch Johnson being promoted and support Pop taking his new position. But man, I'm glad I got a few years to recuperate, because growing up and North Carolina fan and all that, to lose Roy Williams after the 2020 season, have him retire, I was like, well, at least I still got Pop. And now Pop's gone. I'm like, damn, man. Who do I go with now? But no, just it's kind of crazy to like see. I think the guys on TNT were talking about like Ernie's talking about like, he's such a pillar of the game, and Charles Barkley was like, no, man, he is the modern game. You look at every single front office, every single coaching staff, like they all just poached from the Spurs for years, and it's all his guys that are making up the league. So shout out to Pop, man. All the product we get to watch today, that's him right there. So
Hmm.
definitely sad, but I think it was the right decision for him.
Yeah. I have like so many things to talk about with this topic, which again, like I feel like we could cover this entire episode just Popovich. So if we don't get into playoffs this episode, just know that this is again huge for Spurs fans, which is why I had Swisheel on. But obviously, people that have been to my channel already know or should know based on my background. It's a little cropped right now because of me having a guest on and everything. But people that have seen me on solo episodes and things like that, where I have my camera full screen, they've seen my full background. I have the Wheaties over here with all of the championships. I have Tim Duncan, again, off camera for you guys, but on camera for me. I have Tim Duncan Funko up here. I have like 4 Spurs hats up here. I have the pennants, everything to my left. But with all of that, being a Spurs fan, I have the Champs newspaper that's always been here from 1999 before I was even born. My grandparents luckily actually got that before I was born and gave it to me framed. And then a newspaper that I bought myself that I have yet to frame, and I really need to. I had it framed at one point, and then the frame broke. But Pop is top when he broke the win record. And that says it all right there. Because I released I know I haven't really been active on Instagram lately, but I made an Instagram post whenever this news broke. And with me being a huge math guy, as again a lot of people that have watched the channel may know, I remember one comment. This is sort of on a tangent, but I saw one comment a few years ago whenever I made a video that called me Jimmy High Roller Jr. because of how much I use math, and I was like, that's the best compliment anybody can give me. But with me being like huge into applying math to basketball, I went and I visually graphed out sort of the coaching tree because everybody always talks about that. And I captioned the post saying, like, everybody says that Popovich coaching tree is insane, but I don't think enough people know how insane. And so I gave them, like, the visual, and I was like, I think it's 33 coaches in total, and that includes interim and assistant, tie their roots back to Pop in some way. And it was 12, I believe, of those are active head coaches right now. Not necessarily assistants under Pop, but were like assistants under an assistant to Pop, etc. And I mapped that like whole thing out, and I said a big reason for that is not to make you feel old here, Swisheel, but again, Popovich was coach before I was even born, and with Pop having the stroke shows his age, that when you graph it all back, I said that Popovich is and now was one of only 3 coaches in the NBA currently that were only 4 degrees of separation from James Naismith himself.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, because Popovich was only the 4th level, now everybody in the NBA is 5th, 6th, and then the Grizzlies head coach is 7th level removed. So with that, it's like you can all tie it back to Popovich, and there was one other one where it was tied to Doc Rivers and like a few other one. It was something Allen. I think it was like Greg Allen or something like that. I'd have to look, but But Doc Rivers also was under Popovich, so technically you do have a connection there. But taking the
Yeah.
most direct route, it goes like to the other coach besides Pop. But again, it's just mathematically the amount of coaches that tie back to him, and then again, like with him coaching for this long, just even again before I was even like old enough to comprehend what TV was, what basketball was, to like even watch the games, Popovich was coaching. So you can go back to any era of the Spurs and think of what your favorite era was. And it's going to be very hard to not see him on the sidelines. It's because you think of David, like, David Robinson Spurs was my favorite era. Popovich was on the sideline. Oh, I loved the 2003 Spurs, Popovich. I love, the big three, Tony Parker, Manu, Tim Duncan, Pop. I loved the Kawhi era when Tim Duncan was getting older, Pop. I loved the DeJounte Murray era, Pop. I loved the DeMar era, Pop. Like, every single step of the way, like, even recently, when Wemby was drafted, when Castle was there, Pop. And now we're no longer going to have him. And it's going to be a massive, it's going to be a massive shift. Not necessarily with the actual team, because I'll talk a bit about that, but I mean more on the emotional side. It's going to be a huge shift. But in terms of actually coaching the team, I'll get your thoughts on it first, because again, I don't want to ramble for too long, but I have my own opinions on that, and I talked to, again, Noah in the Twitter space about that. So I tried to get recording of that Twitter space so that I could have it for the podcast, because I thought it would be huge. But apparently the host of the Twitter space has the option to either save the recording of the Twitter space or not. And it looks like Noah chose to not to. And then I also tried to, because I had anticipated that, I also tried to screen record it on my phone just in case. But the screen recording captured no audio, because I think maybe Twitter may have some sort of built-in thing where it doesn't capture anything, because I know Hulu and Netflix and stuff like that, if you try and screen record on your phone, it just records a black screen with no audio.
Yeah.
So I think it's some sort of built-in thing like that, where I couldn't get a recording of it, but I'm going to sort of talk about the same kind of things I talked about in that Twitter space. And then Swisheel, of course, like you can give your opinions, and I'll bounce off you as well. So sort of your opinion on sort of how it's going to change the coaching of the team, or again, more of the emotional side of it, whichever direction you want to go.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to add in, everyone talks about coaching tree, but like there's executives throughout the league from Pop too. I
The
mean,
OKC
yeah,
GM, Sam
OKC. I
Presti.
mean, Danny Ferry, Sam Presti, Scott Layden at Minnesota back in the day. I mean, Steve Kerr was GM in Phoenix for a while that built those teams that D'Antoni coached. I mean, I mean, Sean Marks made the huge. Granted, it was a awful move for Brooklyn when he was there. I mean, either way, even down to like Landry Fields in Atlanta until he was fired this past month or so. I mean, it's all over. So it's crazy how just how many people were influenced by him. But in terms of the Spurs, and I'll segue a little to this too. I think I saw a lot of people really upset at first that they hired Mitch Johnson. And frankly, I thought that was a bit of an overreaction. But
I was going to talk about that, yeah.
Well, I won't delve into it too much here, but I think a big thing there, one, the thing the organization is not going to say, but that is true, is that if Mitch Johnson is the head coach, that means Victor Wembanyama asked for it. They don't make any decision without running it by their young star. So him and other guys on the team wanted that. And then two, the Spurs have always been big on continuity. And bringing through that connective stuff. And having a guy who's been on Popovich's staff, I mean, I think he was there since we drafted DeJounte Murray, so right around 2016. So he's been with that team, 9, 10 years now. Um, Coached these guys in the summer league, been part of a Team USA coaching staff. Like he's a phenomenal choice for the job. He's going to bridge the gap there. He brings in the corporate knowledge. He already knows the players. And I'm actually kind of excited because I think this past year, one thing that hurt Mitch Johnson is, he didn't sign up last season to be the head coach of the team. He came in, he was going to be the lead assistant. Popovich was going to coach, and then maybe, sometime in the future he'd take over and get his own gig. And all of a sudden, just a few games in, boom, hey, you're up, do this. And I mean, that's got to be tough. You're in year 2 of this superstar where you've just added vets that you've never coached before. You're expected to go out and win more games than last season, develop this new rookie that's come in, find minutes for everybody, find people's places, deal with injuries. I mean, frankly, for the Spurs, it was a shit show behind the scenes this year. It was awful. And then you throw in, they've got Wemby, who's dealing with his big, deep vein thrombosis diagnosis later in the season. They're starting off with an injured Vassell. Sohan gets injured. Then, they finally make it to All-Star break and all that. And boom, big roster shakeup. They add another player that Mitch Johnson's not familiar with. And yes, De'Aaron Fox is much better, but then you've got to rebuild chemistry, get rotations rebuilt and all that. Your backup center's gone. You have no backup center. And then your starting center comes down with DVT, goes out. You got to rebuild rotations again. Hey, your point guard that you just traded for, he's going to have surgery on his hand. So let's just pull him the rest of the season. And the fact that I always talk with Clan and all that, and from the beginning of last season, I kept saying, look, if they can get somewhere from 33 to 35 wins, I think this season would be a huge success. And the fact that he did that with all this stuff going on, and I think he probably could have won 40 if he hadn't had all the injuries. I think the Spurs are going to be just fine, one. But two, it really excites me to see what Mitch Johnson's going to do now that he gets to run his own rotations and he gets to run his own plays. Because the big sentiment I came away with last season was Mitch Johnson, and it's not just me saying this. I mean, people like Eric Spoelstra have said this after Team USA, that he's an incredible X's and O's guy. Like, his concepts, you can see them on the floor. He's a brilliant mind for drawing up plays and sets. But it just felt like the sets he'd come up with, he didn't have the personnel to run it last year. And this year they can go out and get that personnel for him. So I think it's going to be a big difference there, and that's really going to help as far as ease of transition goes. And then the fact that Pop's still going to be there in San Antonio working, and knowing Pop, he's going to show up to some practices. He wants to, still be a face within that franchise. So that's going to help. But I think the biggest thing to take from it is, one, just the tradition Pop's built and all that. But two, lesson for other franchises, the trust that Pop and RC have in people. I mean, they built winners for 20 years, and then when it was time for them, they were willing and able to let go unconditionally. I mean, RC stepped down and handed the reins to a guy who's never been GM before. He's only been an assistant GM, Brian Wright, and he said, "Look, I've seen enough. I know you're trustworthy. You go build this team." And he's gotten this team where it is now, where it was in purgatory and now on the upside to a winner again. And now Pop's doing that with Mitch Johnson. It's, hey, I trust you. Go coach this team. We don't need to go out and recruit a big name to come in here that none of these players are familiar with. They trust you. I do too.
It's like that scene in Moneyball where they're debating trading the player, And
Yeah.
Jonah Hill's like, you could get fired for this. And Brad Pitt's, I'm pretty sure it's Brad Pitt. Yeah, Brad Pitt says, well, yeah, do you believe in this or not? But he also says, well, if I get fired, then you're the 21-year-old that was under me, and you know the numbers, so we'll be fine. And that's kind of the thing. It's like, by the way, just off topic, but if I keep looking down kind of to the right, it's because I'm making sure that I'm keeping up with any chat messages that come up on Twitch. So I'm paying attention to Swisheel. I promise, guys. I don't want people thinking like, oh, I'm ignoring my guests. I'm looking down at chat. So don't worry about that. But there's a lot of points that I wanted to touch on. Is you mentioned at the very start also the and it kind of ties in with what you said about Popovich maybe showing up at a few practices. Is Popovich was at that conference with Manu and Tim Duncan and everything, and a lot of people said, oh, he looks rough and everything, and it's sad seeing him like this. And that obviously blew up on Instagram, blew up on Twitter, blew up on TikTok. But I saw a lot of the top comments were actually from medical professionals that I don't know if it's because we have like a lot of like hospitals and ERs in Texas and San Antonio and things like that, but somehow I guess a big percentage or demographic of Spurs fans are in the medical field.
It's true.
And maybe it's because of like there's some overlap with the Spurs and Veterans Day, and there's a lot of like military spouses and things like that are also in healthcare. But regardless, there was a lot of people that commented saying, kind of putting people at ease, saying that Popovich came out, he wanted to make people laugh. He still had his humor, as you said. And that is a big step up from what usual stroke victims are like, is what they said. Is that even as rough as he looks, he is still like in the 9 to 10 range of the 1 to 10 scale of like how people do after an event like that. And so, like you said, I think that will add to him maybe making, guest appearances, but guys, we got Pop here at practice, things like that. And I think that will definitely add to that. And then obviously the whole people were reacting to. I saw some people kind of split with. I saw a lot of older Spurs fans really on like happy for him still keeping his position in the franchise and moving up to president of basketball operations. And then I saw a lot of people on the other side kind of divided, being like, well, if he's already retiring because of his health and he's getting older, why not just retire and things like that. And I wanted to kind of mention that because I think it's a lot of the newer fans because, again, like, my generation or younger, they may not know the history because Popovich has been coaching for so long, that Popovich has already been in a front office role like that. That's how he became the head coach in the fucking first place. He was the executive.
Yeah, he's had the title team president for 30 years. He's quite literally doing 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Now he's stepping back and doing 1.
Yeah. But that's how he got the head coaching job in the first place. Is he pulled the Thanos I'll do it myself and fired the Bob Hill, I think it was, and hired himself as head coach. And a lot of people bring that up because, again, with the history, like, the Spurs were doing well with Bob Hill. And so a lot of people saw it as controversial at the time because they were like, you're firing a successful coach.
People hated it.
And then, yeah, in hindsight, here we are now. But I wanted to touch on that. And then what was the other thing? Oh, Mitch Johnson, of course. So I saw, again, sort of a divide in the fan base talking about is Mitch Johnson going to be a good coach, or do we need to do we need to hire in-house with Mitch Johnson, or do we need to go outsource and get another coach? And I got to admit, I wanted to outsource the job, not because I had anything against Mitch Johnson, but just because I wanted somebody that already had experience. And that was somebody, that was the big thing I talked with Noah about is I said, I want to give Mitch Johnson a chance at least. And I said, let's give him 1 or 2 seasons. And if we're less than 500, or if our record is somehow worse, I said, and I've said this even before Popovich retired, whenever we were speculating about him retiring, that I said, if Popovich retires, I want to get Mike Brown. Because I won't repeat all of the points that I've said in previous episodes, because it'll just be redundant and it'll drag on and sound repetitive. But I essentially talked about how the Cavs, but I mean the Cavs too with Kenny Atkinson, but the Kings with Mike Brown reminded me so much of the 2014 Spurs with that team ball, passing the ball around, creating a team offense that both the Cavaliers and the Pacers are doing right now in the playoffs, which are doing so well. And Mike Brown really brought that, and I said Mike Brown had sort of the same culture mentality as Pop. He had a connection to De'Aaron Fox that Popovich had to Tim Duncan, and there was just so many equivalents and parallels that you could draw there. But if you want me to dissect that more, you can go and again view another episode where I talked for probably 30 minutes about that. But yeah, again, I would love to get Mike Brown in. And I talked with Noah and some of his viewers about that a little bit. But I saw a post on Twitter that actually changed my mind. And it was worded really well. And for the people that are going to doubt Mitch Johnson, as you said, you were saying, like, we shouldn't doubt him because he's in-house and things like that. Spurs like to not change too many things and hire in-house. And this goes perfectly in line with that. And it kind of called out the hypocrisy of people saying that Mitch Johnson was going to be a terrible coach. And it said, all right, guys, let me get this straight. You guys can talk hours and hours about Popovich's coaching tree. Talk about how he made Monty Williams, how he made Mike Budenholzer, how he made XYZ coach, and how they're in the playoffs now and how they're doing so well. But whenever it's your own assistant coach, you don't have that level of confidence? You don't think that the person that was under Pop this whole time is going to also be a great coach like the ones that you claim are in his coaching tree? It's kind of like, why don't you apply the same logic of you bragging about his coaching tree to this new person that is now a part of his coaching tree and the head coach?
It's like one of the names I saw get thrown around was Taylor Jenkins. I mean, Taylor Jenkins, yeah, fantastic job with Memphis. Kind of weird that they fired him. He worked with the Austin Toros back when they were still the Toros. Then worked with the Atlanta Hawks and the Bucks as an assistant, and then got hired as a head coach with no prior head coaching experience in the NBA. I mean, it's the same kind of story as Mitch Johnson, only Mitch Johnson got to be directly under Popovich for years. Taylor Jenkins didn't. And Jenkins blossomed into a good coach. It's like, why can't Mitch Johnson do the same? It's one of those wait and see things. But yeah, I just like I said, it's an easy trap to fall into. I mean, myself, I was like, whoa, like I was like, Mike Malone got fired. Holy crap, that's a huge name and all that. But sometimes it's not just about, and I feel like over the years with the Spurs, and I catch myself falling into this trap too, it's not always about the biggest name. And this modern NBA is even more proof of it. Coaching-wise, player-wise, it's not always about the biggest name. It's about the best fit. And like, you look at the teams that have been assembled in this last decade. We had James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving on the same team. And yes, injuries, whatever, they didn't win anything.
Yeah.
We had Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden on a team. They didn't win shit. Yes, injuries, but this year we had Embiid, Harden on the same, not Harden, Paul George on the same team. Didn't win anything. The Suns had Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal all on the same team, and they sucked. Like it just can't be about the big names anymore. And it's funny because Mavs fans, they're freaking out about stuff. Yes, Luka. First of all, the Luka trade. Good God.
Yeah.
We
talked
already
about
did
that last time
but,
me and you were together. Yeah.
yeah, but like you look at the names they're talking about getting there. They got Kyrie Irving there. They got Anthony Davis. They're talking about trying to get Kevin Durant. I'm like, they're huge names, but we know they're not going to win anything. But meanwhile, the teams that are winning right now, I mean, the Celtics won last year. Yeah, they have two homegrown names, and probably the biggest deals they've made were for guys. It wasn't huge. They threw themselves in last minute for Drew Holiday when the Bucks were trading for a big name instead of the better fit, and they got Derek White, who wasn't a big name in the trade cycle a couple of years ago and is now arguably the best role player in the league. They're winning. You got the Nuggets who, all the talk about, oh, Jamal Murray isn't a star player, but goddamn, he fits with Jokic. You had Gordon hit a buzzer beater over the Thunder the other night, which was crazy, and play his role. I mean, the teams that are meshing, the Cavaliers. Yes, Jared Allen is not this all-star big to per se anymore. Yes, Evan Mobley may have had a slow start and all that, but they're just killing teams because they've stayed the course, developed, and they got guys that fit in each position. And same with coaching. There's a lot of these big name coaches get thrown around and hired, and I mean, most of them don't get a chance. Darvin Ham was like the big name assistant. Lakers hired him one season, gone, didn't trust him, and then they hired JJ Redick with no coaching experience and all that. The Bucks got rid of Adrian Griffin and hired Doc Rivers that season, big name, and they sucked.
I mean,
it
hiring
doesn't
Doc
always
Rivers
work
is
out.
always a terrible decision. I've gone on record so many times. And then they got Darvin Ham, like you mentioned. So, of course, there's the big rumors with Giannis and stuff like that. We can get into that in a minute, and the KD stuff as well. Because you mentioned the Nets, and and then you also mentioned the Suns, both KD teams that have basically been plummeted into the ground because of that. And so I could go on a whole rant because of that, but like you said, Cavaliers, I could go on a rant about that too, because as you said, the Nets failed because who did they fire? Kenny Atkinson, who's now freaking carrying the Cavs. And I also said
coaching name and Steve Nash, big name, no substance.
Yeah, well, it's because they wanted somebody that they could push around. I feel like, which is again, I've talked so much about, and as you said, coaches are sort of the scapegoats, where it's like, well, if we do bad, then we'll blame it on this guy, which is why I talked with Noah about we kind of I don't want to say the word debated, because that makes it seem like me and Noah were on opposite sides, but it was kind of just conversating and kind of mulling over different options, and we kind of contemplated, I guess the word is to use is giving Mitch Johnson 1 to 2 seasons enough And Noah was kind of on the side where we should give him more than 2 seasons, even if he does bad, because again, the whole like coaches are the scapegoat argument and everything, where it's like we blame the coach way too often. And whenever he said that, I was like, well, I agree with you because I did a whole video on that, about how coaches are the scapegoat and everything. But
The thing
yeah,
with the Spurs is they've got a, and it's again, it's a thing we've seen a tale as old as time. They have a different criteria than the fans. And yes, have they been wrong at times? Absolutely. Nobody's perfect. But they have been right more than most. Um, and I mean, I remember people were furious, and it's funny because I read an article about this. That people were furious back in the day when we didn't, we lost and then we didn't trade Tony Parker. Um, and oh, this is an awful move. We need somebody with experience and all this. We need this bigger guy. Well, they stayed the course and ended up winning 3 more titles. And I mean, like, you see plenty of those teams get dissatisfied and move on too quickly, and the Spurs are just not going to do that. And one thing the Spurs are going to let Mitch Johnson do is actually coach. Whereas I like you're talking about Steve Nash, I don't think they hired him to coach. They hired someone to do whatever they wanted. That kind of thing. Yeah, and so I think 2 seasons may seem like enough to us, but they're going to be looking at other entries. It's how the locker room's responding, overall morale, the progression, development wise under the coach and all that. So I think they're going to have a different set of rules they play by, and I don't think it's going to come to a situation where we're going to be losing a lot, because I do think that this offseason and next they're going to make a couple moves that kind of finalize this roster for expansion. But yeah, I think we're going to see some results and all that. And if we're not a champion in 2 years, I think they're going to fire again. They want to see certain improvements, and they see those. They're set with it. It's the same with young guys. I hear all the time, it's every year it's a new player. Oh, Sohan, he hadn't proved it all. He's got to go. And look at him this year. Yeah, they could have dealt him last year after a point guard experiment that didn't work and all that, and they did. They stuck with it, and he's an efficient player. This year it's been Devin Vassell. Oh, got to get rid of him. I don't agree that they've got to get rid of him with like Giannis and stuff like that. But as we'll get into, they still believe in these guys. So different set of rules to play by, just different set of things to follow. So I think 2 years is good, but he's probably going to get a longer leash, and I think deservedly so.
Yeah. I agree, man. And sorry I had to get up for a second. I saw a technical issue I had to fix.
No, you were good. I thought something was wrong with the mic. I was trying to vamp a little bit and give you some time.
Yeah, appreciate it. I essentially what I did is I just did the classic turn it off and on again. I unplugged my mic and plugged it back in because it was showing my mic was redlining even though I wasn't talking. And so then I tried muting my mic and it was still redlining. So I thought it's something maybe with the cord to the PC where it's transmitting static or something for whatever reason. But anyway, resolved now. Let's move past that, and with the whole Cavaliers stuff, or I'll mention this last thing with Pop, and we've been going for about 45 minutes, so we'll try and transition the last 15 with playoff stuff because I have a big thing that I want your opinion on. The thing I did find weird, and this is not to diminish, again, Pop's impact, because we've just talked about Pop's impact for, again, 45 minutes. But I've seen a lot of people talk about Pop as if he's dead. And I'm like, guys, he's not dead. He's just retired. I saw Draymond Green. Draymond Green said, "I wish I could hug him one last time." And I'm like, and a bunch of people.
San Antonio next year.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of people like commented on it and called him out and was like, "Well, dude, just like see him next season." But what I do agree with though. What I do agree with though with that is, and I think the reason that Draymond said that, even though he worded it poorly, is because he retired for a medical reason and it kind of came out of nowhere. Is he didn't get a proper send off with people like players like Kobe, and I'm sure LeBron coming up. They have their historic last game. And you also get like those tribute videos where like Dirk and like when Kawhi came back to San Antonio, whatever the case may be, they do like those classic tribute videos on the Jumbotron. But with this, it was sort of like more of forced, so there wasn't any like official like send off. It was like all through social media. And then obviously everybody made like the tribute videos like on TikTok and Instagram and things like that. But obviously there's a bit of ulterior motives with that where people like Bleacher Report and House of Highlights, it may not be because they are Spurs fans and enjoy Pop. They may just be trying to sort of ride the search terms and the trending topic. But that's why I mean, like we haven't gotten like something in AT&T Center or technically Frost Bank Center or anything like that yet. And so I kind of get where he's coming from. But let's try and remember the guys that, again, Popovich is still president. And again, like Swisheel and I said, Swisheel brought it up first, so I'll give him credit, that Popovich will probably still be at practices. He may be on the sideline from time to time, just not coaching, things like that. So it's not like he's like gone forever. And I've seen a lot of people, again, like it's kind of weird, talk to him as if he's passed away, which is kind of silly. But it does kind of make you think of the future, though, where like one day, we're not here forever. One day he might actually pass away, and then that's going to be even tougher to deal with. So yeah, but I just wanted to kind of end Pop's talk off with that, unless you have any more like quick 5-minute thoughts, and then I have a big playoff topic to kind of transition to.
Man, let's hit the playoffs. Let's do it.
All right. I am going to send you an image, if I'm able to, on Twitter, so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. And in editing, right, I'll probably put it on screen if I can. Here it comes. I just sent it to you. So we get the classic argument, which I've also brought up, that the playoffs are turning into a glorified, quote-unquote, glorified three-point contest, and as well as the whole free throw merchant argument. Brunson, people like Shea, people joke about Shea so much, even though I think Brunson is a bigger issue. And then I turned on the Cavaliers-Pacers game last night. Less than 5 minutes into the first quarter, like literally like less than 2 minutes into the first quarter, they were already shooting free throws. So that's a huge issue. I saw a lot of people joking about the Nuggets OKC game because they were chanting free throw merchant at Jokic during the game, and they posted that on TikTok, and all the TikTok comments are like, the audacity of OKC to say that. But besides free throws, I also sent you this chart that, again, I will put on screen here in editing. But I think the number was that the playoff record for 3-point attempts was broken 4 times in the past week in a row. And then obviously they also talked about how the Timberwolves went 12 for 76, which is the worst 3-point shooting ever. But that's because of the volume that they're shooting. So to me, I mean, again, I've gone on this rant multiple episodes, so I won't try and go too long, but you can go and watch it in previous episodes where I've talked a bit about how, to me, I love defense, and I love, again, as we brought up just in this episode, team offense, where the Cavaliers are playing really good team offense, the Pacers are playing really good team offense, the Kings back in the day with Mike Brown were playing really good team offense. I love team offenses that know how to actually make plays, and also defense. And in today's game, the quote-unquote play is let's try and get someone on the 3-point open. And that's all the play is. There's no like freaking switches, no screens, not as many pick and rolls, except for the really good people like Jokic, Giannis, people like that actually can perform the pick and roll. And not as many huge, crazy crossover type moves unless you're someone like Kyrie. It's mainly just let's try and screen or get someone. Let's try and screen the person on the 3-point line, or try and fake someone out by driving to the paint and then kicking it to the arc. And there's only a few exceptions to that. I think Brunson is one of Brunson and Halliburton and Mitchell are 3-point guards that are sort of drive through the paint more than other point guards, but. All that to say, again, that the 3-point has definitely become an issue of contention recently, and has definitely been a massive issue, and I think is going to continue to be a massive issue unless somehow there's some sort of change. And I would like to see it change, but I don't know how. I saw a few people joking about it with, I'm sure you've seen it, people joking about making it like baseball stadiums where you can customize where the 3-point line is. And they asked one basketball player, they asked an NBA player about it, but I forget who it was they asked. But they mentioned one of the baseball stadiums where, because of the constraints of like the land that they owned or whatever, that they cut like first base like backwards. So like, again, I'm not a baseball fan, I'm a basketball fan, but if like the freaking top is arched like this, you have like third, second, and then like first is all the way down here because of the way they designed the field. And they were talking like, if you bring that to the NBA, it's just going to create massive home field advantage problems. And
Golden State would just move their 3-point line 10 feet out. And
it would be the new half court. And I saw people talking about adding a 4-point line as well. And I'm like, no, don't add more points the further back. It's just going to make it worse.
4-point line is dumb. I honestly wonder. I feel like the line maybe could come out some with the range people are shooting at now. I definitely think they need to look at the corner threes, because those are basically the same shot as a college three. Mm-hmm. My big thing
is like that joke in Family Guy. It's like, don't shoot the corner three. It's a glitch. Corner three.
Yeah. That's a good one. But I think the big thing they need to do, and I've people have said this for years and they never do it. One is they need to help defenses out a little bit more. There's so many new rules that allow these off. I mean, the freaking gather step, that's become such a technicality now that you're getting guys like Harden who have figured out how to abuse it. And I'm not saying Harden travels. It's legal what he's doing. But he's able to get like 4 or 5 steps to step back on a shot. And then he's at the elbow, and all of a sudden he's at the 3-point line. And the defense can't react to that. Like, I don't know. Maybe allow hand checking again or something.
I was going to bring that up.
or bring back, allow zone defenses.
Dude, zone defenses
in European ball, they do like college and European Bowl where there is no defensive 3 seconds, and let the big men patrol the paint some and cut down on the easy scoring opportunities, because then if right now the thought with these guys is, okay, I've got to guard them from three. If I jump too far out on the three, I'm fucked. I got nobody there to cover for me. I mean, even teams with in the Timberwolves, they got Rudy Gobert. Spurs, they got Wemby. I mean, even those teams, those guys are scared to jump too far out on shots, because if they get blown by, chances are it's a dunk or a layup. It's going to be harder for guys to block. But if you've got that fallback, you're willing to play a little bit more aggressive defense on there, and I think that'll launch the 3-point attempts not down necessarily, but bring the percentages back to earth. I think they need to get with refs and really talk about the definitions of moving screens, because they are all over the place in the league, and it's because it's such a vague definition that, again, these guys are exploiting it and stuff. And unless someone's directly kicking out a leg, they're never going to call that kind of shit. And, I mean, and I think they used to have the college 5 seconds closely guarded thing, where if you have the ball and you haven't broken the defender's line with you in 5 seconds, it's a turnover. Yeah, that'll keep guys like James Harden coming up the court, standing there in front of his defender and dribbling between his legs for 10 seconds, and spamming step backs, keep the ball moving. So I think there's ways to do it. I just don't know if they're willing to have those discussions.
Yeah, like you brought up some rule changes I thought would be really good. I do think that you mentioned, we joked about the whole customizing the 3-point line, but as a joke, but you had mentioned maybe bringing it back a little bit. I think that maybe if it was a league-wide change of just an adjustment of the 3-point line, that would be good, because I mean that's hasn't been unprecedented. I know there's going to be people that complain oh, well, the 3-point line's been this way for, however many years. Why are we changing it now just because your team's, skill issue, whatever. All the Gen Z, Gen Alpha comments, skill issue, get better.
Widen the lane because of Wilt.
That's what I was going to bring up. I was like, it's not unprecedented where the lane was widened for Wilt. They added the shot clock for George Mikan. Sometimes you just need to sit down and be like, hey, it's a new decade of basketball. Things need to switch up a little bit. It may seem awkward for a lot of people to have rule changes all the way in the freaking 77th, I think it is, because it was, what year was it that it was 75 years? Was that 2021 or 2022?
Oh God, yeah, it was a couple years back, yeah.
So yeah, let's say 77, 78 years. It may seem crazy to people that have rule changes in the 78th year of the NBA, but again, we've had rule changes every decade or so. Now we're in the 2020s, so we're overdue for a new rule change, in my opinion. I was gonna bring up, you brought up the whole hand checking thing. I was gonna make a joke about that because do you know a guy called Motown Noah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
dude, he's fantastic.
He's so funny, and he's a Pistons fan, but he keeps that on the low, but he brings that up every now and then.
He was that guy put out one video, and it was just him in front of a mic talking, but he had such a depth of understanding of the Pistons and everything else.
Yeah.
You couldn't help but just listen to him. He's phenomenal.
Yeah. I haven't kept up with him in a while, because last I heard he got hired by Buckets and then fired by Buckets, and I don't think he's uploaded since then. But I bring him up because he made a joke about that as a Pistons fan, where he did sort of a crowdfunding rules change thing, where he's like, I ask you guys for your hottest takes on rule changes, or your dumbest rule changes or whatever. And it was all these fan submitted rule changes that would just be so asinine and dumb, where it said something I think one of them was if a ref calls a technical like the ref has to shoot a free throw for it to be valid. Like it's like random bullshit like that. But like one of them mentioned hand checking, and Motown Noah made a joke about that, and he's like, "Hey, they took away hand checking, but all I'm gonna say is the Pistons won a championship when hand checking was a thing, so maybe we should bring it back." Like he was joking as a Pistons fan, being like, "Hey, when hand checking was a thing, my team was winning, so maybe we should bring that back."
No, it's true though. Like, look, I mean, hand checking was taken away because it was like, there's too little scoring. It gives the defense too big of an advantage. But now with the skill levels we've got and the shooting we've got, I'm like, come on. Even the best of defenders, I mean, Kawhi Leonard, not what he was defensively, but still elite. I'm watching him this playoff series, and even there's nothing new on some of these plays. And I hate the idea that you can be an elite defense. Obviously, good offense is probably going to be good defense most of the time, just because guys get lucky, they hit tough shots. But I hate the idea that there's some of these shots where it's like there's literally nothing you can do within the scheme of the offense given the defensive rules. And you see that especially a lot the Nuggets are one of my favorite offensive teams to watch in that aspect because they just exploit so much where, they've got shooters around Jokic and every single one of them knows how to cut too.
Mm-hmm.
So like he gets the ball in the middle and they start the movement and because the defenses A can't stand in the paint, B can't stay in obviously NBA it's a quasi zone. They don't allow a full zone and all that. They can't guard still too long, and then with the movement in these offenses, it's tough to switch anymore. You can't fight over screens on defense a lot anymore, or else you get a foul call. You can't hand check to slow a guy down because that's illegal. And then you're trying to keep up with these guys who are constantly moving and then can either stop on a dime and hit a three or catch fake and drive to the basket, and Jokic is going to find him with a pass. Like, it's downright unstoppable at times, and it's fun to watch when they're going, but it's also like, at some point, are we taking defense out of the game entirely, or do you want people to play defense?
Yeah. And you mentioned oh, my bad. Go ahead. I thought you were done.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you mentioned like the whole 3-second lane change and things like that and potentially changing that. I think maybe we don't get rid of it because I think that's what you said. I think maybe we change the time limit just a little bit because obviously like we don't have players like George Mikan, we don't have players like Wilt in the game anymore. People would argue that maybe it would be too advantageous for people like Giannis, people like Jokic, people like Wemby, potentially KD, these people that are like 7 foot, all that. But again, those players are even taking threes at this point now, so I don't think it would matter too much. But I also bring it up because there was a clip posted of there's already players that are using loopholes in that rule anyway. A big one being Draymond Green, which is why I mentioned it, because that's going around now too, where he used a loophole in a playoff game just recently where against the Rockets in Game 7, Draymond stayed in the lane defensively the entire time. But he was touching the Rockets players outside the paint periodically. And I think there's some sort of loophole with that where it's like if you touch them, you're still considered guarding them outside the paint.
Yeah, if you touch them, you're actively guarding and it resets the 3-second count.
And so he's already using that as a loophole anyway. And so I think maybe we take it just slightly from like 3 to 5. I think taking it from 3 to 7 may be too much because that's over double. But if we take it just from 3 to 5, I think that might give it the shift, that slight bump that people need to kind of be in the paint a little bit longer. And you mentioned some other great rule changes and things that I think could work really well. But at the end of the day, we're obviously not the commissioner or anything like that. But I think that I personally think that the 3-point is an issue again, and I think that, of course, they've made some rule changes about flopping and things like that, but I think that also plays into it because the defense is giving the offense so much room to play around with in terms of shooting and just flopping in general and things like that. That's a whole other issue. But we've been going for about an hour and 5 minutes. So if you have any closing thoughts about Popovich, about rule changes, about the playoffs, anything like that, if you just want to shout out your stuff and get out of here, that's also an option. Just whatever you want to do.
I'll say I need the Cavs to stop losing on these crazy buzzer beaters.
Yeah, I jinxed it last night. I feel like that's on me because I sent a screenshot to my buddy when the Cavs were up like 25. And he was saying, like, the Pacers are going to win in 5 and win in 6. So I sent him a screenshot of the scoreboard. And I was like, we're up 25, bro. I thought you said the Pacers were going to demolish us. And then I kept watching the game, and I was like, uh-oh, they're coming back. And then Halliburton's hit the buzzer beater, and I was like, I jinxed it, guys. I'm sorry.
Someone posted a stat. It was like Halliburton's like 11 of 12 on those late game winners / game tires this season.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, Jesus Christ, that guy doesn't miss in the clutch.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that series is rough. I don't ever want to hear the Chet greater than Wemby takes. Wemby would have hit those free throws. And the Nuggets played that beautifully because Jokic denied Shea and made sure that Holmgren got those free throws and not the 94% 3-point free throw shooter. So they had a shot. So that'll be an interesting series. Let's see what other series are going on out there right now. I forget
Warriors,
all of them.
Timberwolves, but Curry's injured.
I mean, hey, they handled the Timberwolves
Yeah,
pretty
they got
well.
Butler
They stole
and
one game.
Buddy. So I want people to stop sleeping on Buddy. I'm going for the Timberwolves, but even just as a basketball fan, back when Buddy Hield was with the Kings and he was getting traded around all over the place, I was like, y'all trading Buddy Hield, y'all sleeping on him, bro. I met him in freaking San Antonio one time because they were playing the Kings. The Spurs were playing the Kings that night, and there was also a UTSA game going on. So I was at the UTSA game with my buddies, and I guess for some reason he wanted to see what the San Antonio college talent was like, even though he had a Spurs game like the next day or that night. And so he came into the UTSA gym. And he had like a hoodie and a hat on to kind of keep it low key, but like a few people recognized him. So like me, and like a few other people like talked to him. And then like after a while people started like realizing like, oh, there's a crowd here. Let's go see what's up. And they realized it was him. And then that's when like he left cause he got found out. So
Buddy's elite. People,
yeah,
he's been out of college long enough that people are like, "Oh, he's a role player." First of all, I'm like, he's a career 40% shooter from deep. He's like 39.7 for his career, and like his last year of college was my junior year of college when he was at Oklahoma. That guy was dropping like 40 in games in the tournament, and like people couldn't guard him, made it to the Final Four, and then lost. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he was something serious in college. And like that's the thing, it's crazy because he's kind of been Klay Thompson these last few games, and that's exactly what they needed from him to move on. Yeah, Rockets, I'm sorry, you have a bright future, but God damn, your offense is atrocious to watch. I'm sorry. Your entire offense is Steven Adams getting offensive rebounds like a god. Like, get a scoring option there, and y'all are set.
As a Spurs fan, I still go for Steven Adams. Just because.
I love Steven Adams.
I just love his personality. Have you seen those compilations that they've made where like he hugs the enemy, hugs the opponent, and somebody like captioned it with like a deep like I don't want to say troll voice, but like a stereotypical like giant deep voice and it's just a voiceover of him going like, "Let go of my point guard." He's like, or no, he says it like the voiceover like says it in a nicer way. It's like, please release my point guard or something like that.
He's one of those guys. He's so big and so strong that he knows nobody can mess with him. So there's no point in him being mean because they're not going to try. But no, he was great for the Rockets. They need to figure out scoring options. I'm not a Jalen Green hater. He's just not ready to shoulder a scoring load yet. He's only been in the league, 4 or 5 years. It takes time. Go get you a scoring option. Help you out. You'll be fine. Bucks. I don't know what to tell you guys, man. Other than Giannis, my boy.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're going to do to help you, man. So if you
I don't
leave,
want KD, I'll say that. Don't give me KD on the Spurs again. I think he's freaking 37 and he would disrupt everything.
For scraps like the Kings deal for Fox, sure, but I don't want to trade a whole lot of picks and all that stuff for him. Giannis, on the other hand, that's what I do.
I feel like so many people are making mock trades that overpay for him, though. I saw somebody post one that said, we got to give him 3 first-round picks, plus Castle, plus Vassell, plus somebody else, who was it? We had to give them, Castle, maybe it was... I think it was Sohan, maybe. They said, give us Castle, give us Sohan, give us Vassell, give us 3 picks. And I was like, so you want basically half of our starting lineup and 3 picks for, one player. I love Giannis. I have my freaking... my Bucks championship pendant here because I was going for him so hard in 2021, and I kept up with his story. I watched... the movie Rise and all that. I love his story, where he's come from. And again, we were just talking about Steven Adams, same kind of thing with Giannis. I love his personality, everything like that. But to me, even as much as I love Giannis, I don't want to give up 3 or 4 fucking players for him, man.
Yeah, it's hard. You don't want to send the whole house away for someone. I would love to work something out though, because I'd be realistic, and I'm like, look, I'm under no disillusion that he really wants things to not work out in Milwaukee. I think he would love to stay if he could, but I look at Milwaukee and I'm like, what are they going to do to help him get better? They've got only 2 expiring contracts, and that's Gary Trent Jr. and Brook Lopez. Lopez is making $23 million. They can't just let him expire. Even if they let everybody who's expiring walk, they only have $10 million to fill out their entire roster, given the cap rules and being under the second apron.
Yeah.
So they forfeited their mid-level exception because of that, and their biannual exception.
Yeah.
So they basically have to use their bird rights and re-sign Brook. And then you just have the same fucking team that you just had.
Yeah.
Dame might not play until the 2026-2027 season. And an ACL this old, I love Dame and I'm rooting against this, but we may have seen the last of him looking like he has. I think he's still going to be a good player, but he may not come back anywhere near as explosive as he was.
I even think before the injury that it was the wrong decision, and don't get me started on all that because I've ranted about that whole trade, and I said multiple times, even back when they traded Drew Holiday before they even got Dame, I said or before they traded Chris Middleton, I guess I should say, back when they traded Drew Holiday, I had said they're going the opposite direction. The reason y'all won the 2021 championship was because of defense, and now you're trying to trade defense to inject offense. It was just stick with defense.
Big name over fit.
Yeah,
Drew Holiday
back to the argument we said before. But with that said,
but I just don't know what the Bucks do. They can't trade. They can't aggregate players in trades now. They can't trade any first-round picks. They have no first-round picks through 2031 to trade. All of them are involved in swaps and shit. I'm like, what do you do? So, I mean, if I were him, I feel like there is no option but to go elsewhere if you really want to win. But I know that's tough because that's been his home since he
You
was
trade
19.
for
So,
Milwaukee, you trade him away, and you pull the old thing that they don't want you to do because it worked. The old Sam Hinkie process. I did a whole video about how the process worked, but people say it didn't work because they haven't won anything. But I was like, well, they haven't won anything because they got a new GM. Yeah. And they got a new GM because, again, they fired him under mysterious circumstances. And I went on a whole thing that said the NBA saw it was working and said, you better fire him or we're going to blackball you.
yeah,
But, yeah.
keep
But with
teams from doing this.
Yeah, but anyway, we went for like another 15 minutes after we said any final thoughts. So, but that's how it is with me and Swisheel. It's always a good time. So go follow him. His Twitter, his YouTube will be in the description. And once again, you guys can watch these episodes live over on Twitch. That's also in the description. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. Go check out the merch. I know my microphone has kind of been covering it the entire episode, but go check out the merch. And again, this plushie that I made for the indie game, all that good stuff. All of the socials, all of the merch stuff is going to be down in the description below. So hopefully you guys check it out. Really good episode. We'll talk about NBA playoffs going forward in another episode. And again, if you have any questions for some international fans, that should be coming up as well. So leave that down in the comments. Or also have a Discord that I'm trying to get active. So you guys can go join that Discord and drop some of the questions there as well. So I think that should be it. All that good stuff. And I will see you all in the next one. Nathan Burnett, episode 80.